Good morning. We're continuing with our reading from my book, The Reasonableness of Faith, a study of Kierkegaard's philosophical fragments. So this is our fourth reading. If Falconer's observation is true, which I think it is, then we may argue that Kierkegaard has an important place in modern philosophy. This may be the case for a number of reasons. First, Kierkegaard is one of the foremost thinkers since the 18th and 19th century European idealist period of philosophy to explore the issue of faith and reason from the religious perspective rather than the rational. Second, even as he sought to retain the integrity of faith over against the autonomous force of historical or human reason, which attempted to appropriate transcendence or the transcendent within the bounds of reason alone, so prevalent in his time, nonetheless Kierkegaard did not overlook the significant place of historical reason in philosophy and religion. For example, in a journal he wrote in 1850, after stating, quote, "Reason does not comprehend what faith believes," he writes immediately that, again, quote, "But nevertheless there is something here by which reason becomes determined or is conditioned to honor the faith, which it still does not perfectly succeed in grasping." End of quote. With respect to the absurdity of the absolute paradox, the incarnation of God, he writes in the same journal that the activity of reason is to distinguish the paradox negatively. Since this is what he admits, he developed in another pseudonymous work, concluding unscientific postscript to philosophical fragments. Concerning the absurdity of the incarnation of God or other forms of absurdity, he states that one's concept of the absurd is not something so superficial that it cannot be developed. He states that the concept of the absurd is precisely to grasp the fact that it cannot and must not be grasped. The absurd, he says, is a negatively determined concept. However, he also argues that the concept of the absurd is just as dialectical as any positive one. For instance, what one has or possesses in the faith of Christianity. So just to elaborate a little bit on the last part of this reading, in respect to what he says about the absurdity of the incarnation, and that particular concept being the negative idea, nonetheless something that can be grasped as such, basically means here that in his view, what he's saying is that our understanding or our concept of the incarnation, the absolute paradox, in essence, the substance of that particular event is something that is beyond human comprehension. However, that does not mean that as such, a concept which cannot be essentially grasped rationally or logically doesn't mean that it's not something that cannot be thought of or conceived, but only in a negative way where the the substance of that idea is not there, to put it simply. In the in common ways that we normally conceive things. So the word here, negative, or negatively, is very, very important, I think, in relation to understanding the absolute paradox, the incarnation of God. We know that it happened. We know that it is a true concept because it historically took place in the world. However, the essential understanding of it is not something that subjects itself to our rational or human understanding. It is conceived or understood as that which cannot be rationally or logically understood. And that's what Kierkegaard here means by that particular concept or idea being negative in nature. So I'll stop here and I'll see you next time. God bless you.